John, you've written quite a bit about the lack of reasoned debate in universities and civil discourse. And actually, I can relate to that as an instructor as well. And one of my students put it this way: we can only discuss when we all agree. And that was the feeling. Yes, yes. So is the university really the place for these kinds of discussions on controversial issues like morality, religion, politics, and why?
So we can discuss all sorts of things at NYU. We just can't discuss sacred values. And what I mean by that is that the way to understand, so I'm a Durkheimian. That means the sociologist Emil Durkheim. I think he was one of the wisest people who ever lived. I think of him as one of the greatest founders of the social sciences. And he interpreted all the crazy things people do as attempts to form groups, to form tribes. Tribes unify around sacred values. It can be a rock or a tree or a book or a person. It can be a sports team or a TV show or Harley Davidson. But whatever that group unifies around, if anyone insults that or disagrees with it, they're in big trouble and they're out of the group. So we're used to thinking of this for religion. We know what blasphemy laws, sacrilege laws, we know about all that for formal religions. But I think what you have to see happening in America as a dominant religious frame has retreated is we've had the rise of multiple sacred values in multiple groups around the country, many of which are extraordinarily illiberal. So we're seeing the rise of all these groups on the right that are quasi-religious movements that are deeply incompatible with democracy. But as you mentioned, my Coddling of the American Mind article, we've seen the rise of illiberalism on the left. And this is the problem in universities, that because there are certain sacred values related to certain topics and groups, and I have to be very careful what I say because this talk is going online, so I actually cannot talk openly to you. But there are many things we cannot say, cannot talk about, because they will be sent out on social media, taken out of context, and you can have your career ended.
Tim, presumably your foundation for morality as a Christian is the Bible. So how can someone like you, with this obvious base for morality, enter into even a pluralistic discussion about morality when many people may not even agree with your foundation?
Well, I spoke a little bit to that, I think. For example, Michael Sandel, Harvard University, wrote a book. He teaches a kind of a master class there on justice, and he wrote a book that basically writes up, it's an undergraduate course, and he wrote a book called Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do? He points out that there's at least 3 theories of justice that are at work in our society right now. He says there's the utilitarian view, which is the just thing is the greatest good for the greatest number. He says there's the Kantian view, which is justice is all about the individual getting their rights, not the greater good. And then there's the Aristotelian view, which is justice is getting what you deserve. And he says, there's a great line where he says, all theories of justice are judgmental. And what he means is there is no way to prove which one of these things is the right approach. He says they're all grounded in somewhat different understandings of the relationship of the individual to society, different understandings of actually human nature, different understandings of maybe even the purpose of human life, different accounts of what is a good human life. None of these things can be empirically proven. So he says, in the end, at the bottom, as soon as you say that's a justice issue, which people do at NYU all the time and other places, that's a justice issue, he says, depends on your theory of justice. The theories of justice are very complicated. They're rooted in non-provable and non-self-evident intuitions about human life and human nature, and therefore, everybody is coming in to public discourse, in a sense, with a set of moral norms that you can't prove to somebody else. Nobody can completely just prove their moral framework. So, yeah, I'm coming with the Bible, but frankly, my moral framework isn't, I don't think, more exclusive than somebody else's, because it's, in a sense, based on faith. To me, what we need in the public square is not to change our views. When somebody says, your views are too narrow, I say, well, it's the attitude. Tolerance, humility, and respect. I actually feel like here's a Buddhist, here's a Muslim, here's an atheist, here's a Christian. All of them are bringing into public discourse values that they can't prove. So they're all, in a sense, operating in faith in some way. What I'm really going to be watching is which one has the resources in their worldview to be tolerant, respectful, and humble toward the people they disagree with. That's the most important thing we need at this point. That's what people on the right and the left, and actually, frankly, even there's a lot. I actually do see people in the center, I would say, who don't seem to be as extreme, but actually are as hard to talk to as anybody else. So I would go like that. I would say that I don't think that because I do say the Bible is the ground for my moral framework that I'm somehow more narrow than somebody else is.